Good afternoon, everybody. How you doing? It's me, Paddy from across the Shuck, and you're very welcome back to the channel. And especially if you're new, because some people have been listening and some people have been subscribing, which is great. I love to get new subscribers because it makes the video I'm going to do now, it tells you a little bit about me and a bit about my history in knife collecting and knife use. This is my love story about knives. And the word love is definitely in there. To collect pocket knives, it is a hobby, but there's something more tangible to it. There's something you feel inside when you want to collect knives. For me, it is anyway, and it is a love of the history of them. The feel of some of them just really touch me, and also there's the practical side. Getting an amazing tool and having it in your hand. Man's oldest tool, one of his oldest tools is a knife or a cutting implement, but a flint. But when he found out how to use it, that's it, life changed. And it's still doing that today with people. It still brings people into this hobby that find out, wow, what have I been missing all my life? I've liked knives, I've used knives like I did, but I used knives with a purpose. When I was camping, I used Mora knives. This is just an example. My old one's away in a box. This is a very old Mora. You can see it. A beautiful, beautiful old Mora that was given to me by my daughter-in-law, who found it in her grandpa's workshop whenever he passed away. And she gave it to me. It was rusted, it was black, and I done as best I could. And I've put an edge on it, but it's not a full Scandi. I just put an edge. I didn't want to take any more off it because to me, this was her grandpa's and I want to leave it the way it was. He had a secondary bevel on it and I just redone it again. It was chipped and lumps taken out of it as well. So I just kept it as close to near as it looked when he got it. And it's a beautiful knife. But I was buying £16 Moras when I was bushcrafting and camping. I mean, it's now moved on to today where I've got this beautiful Bark River, which is just, it's like chalk and it's like a Rolls Royce to a Mini. It's just an amazing piece of cutlery. Beautiful, beautiful knife. And when I first started out in this knife hobby, I come from Northern Ireland, which is in the UK, for those of you who don't know. And our knife laws are terrible and always have been bad. They're getting worse, but they always were bad and much more stringently checked on now than what they ever did because of knife crime, which is just pitifully stupid. But that is life and we just have to live with what we've got. Well, no, we don't have to live with what we've got. There's people in America around changing laws. I mean, there's nobody here doing that. And to be honest with you, I haven't got the time or the inclination to want to do that. I just stick with what I've got. Backing out, call that whatever you want. Just, I don't know, that's what it is. I don't have the time or the inclination to do that sort of thing. And I don't have the intelligence apart from anything else. But when I first started and I found out I could buy locking knives here, I was in my 50s, when I found out that I could buy good locking knives. And when I started camping, was just fixed blades. But I also found open L's because I'd heard people talking about open L's and you can buy them in the shop here. So I bought an open L. It was fantastic. I loved it. A locking knife that I could use quite roughly, didn't have to worry about. Because I was brought up with non-locking knives. And anything that locked just seemed a little bit more fancier. And when I first started, again, I'm not a man that has a lot of money. I've had periods in my life, in this last 10, 15 years, where I've had money left by my parents when they passed away. And I've used quite a bit of that I got. My wife kindly let me, shared some of them, my inherited money with me so I could buy a better selection of knives. And that's how it just built. But the knives that I was buying when I first came around was like Ziganzo. And I got so much stick for buying Chinese knives. And to this day, to then, I couldn't give a monkey about those people that talk about it like that. I really couldn't. I've no interest in them. They've no interest in my life, if that's the way they feel. So be it. I was buying these for £16 to £20, a locking knife with an axis lock, which I'd never heard of. But this is one of the original, This is an amazing knife in 440C. It took a month to get it wore in. People didn't sort of take the knives apart that much when I first came around. Nobody was taking knives apart except for the sort of people have been around a long time, maybe took them apart. I didn't. I just washed them under a tap and put a wee bit of oil in the back of them, and that was it. And they worked perfectly well. I had no need to take them apart. But these were great. They really got me interested in knives and what you can get for a budget price. I mean, this looked spectacular. It's a copy. Well, it's not. It's a homage to the Spyderco Para 2. And that's what it is. It's got an axis lock, which the Para doesn't. It's a bit smaller than the Para, but it is. It's a take on it. Somebody copied a bloody thing, let's be honest, and just added a couple of differences to it. But to me, it was inexpensive and it was perfect. I could do the things I wanted to do with this knife. Has that changed over the years? Of course it has. I mean, there's very few people come around just on very budget knives and don't try something a little bit dearer. I mean, now that's been replaced by something like this. Titanium, a nearly unrustable steel LC200, a Spyderco Spidey Chef. Are they comparable? Not to that, they're not anywhere near the same, but they have that look. And that's the thing. The biggest thing about knives is the look and the feel in hand. This is just so far up the scale from that Ganzo. But I have bought so many Spydercos based on this knife, based on being able to buy it cheap, use it, and when the time was right, I was able to buy them. And it was a Delica was the first one, and I've had nearly every single one you can think of. Maybe not a lot of the high-end ones, but every single usable ones. The budget type price of Spydercos that you can get. And I've loved every one of them in that journey that it's led me to something like this. Do you know what I mean? It's just fantastic. And it sets off, it really did set me off on a path that took me away from slip joints and led me into, now that's a lie, because a lot of the slip joints I bought in the beginning, just to pad out my collection so that I could make videos, were things like Rough Riders. Now, the old ones, I haven't got any of the very old ones left, but then they went to the Big R bolster. I bought a stack and then I gave them all away or sold them in batches because I just didn't like the Big R. But now you can get them without the Big R. This is the faux tortoise shell, and this is a Queen, which is made by Smoky Mountain Knife Works now. They own the property rights to Queen. And this is a beautiful, and the bone on this, I keep saying it, it's the nicest bone, saw cut bone that I have in my collection. It is beautiful, and they do a whole range of these, and they're just fantastic. This tortoise shell, is it? No, it looks kind of like it, but you can get away with it, and I love the tortoise badge on it. So I was buying cheap Rough Riders, Chinese made, and again, you get stick because you're buying Chinese knives. I couldn't care less. I was buying what I could afford and what made me feel good, and these made me feel good. I loved them in hand. But I wasn't a collector of traditionals. I was more a collector of, lockable knives, because that's what I'd come into, and that's what excited me when I came in. I mean, I can remember the same day, I was talking to Jeff this morning. He'd actually mentioned I'd done a video of this during the week, and he said, have you still got that knife? And he has no idea what this knife meant to me in my journey. He sent me this knife from America, which in itself was just something I never imagined happening. He sent me a 940. Now, that was what, it must be 6 years ago. And I have loved this knife every day since I've had it. Honestly, I think it's one of the most beautiful knives out there. Yes, there's more modern ones, but this was my Grail. This is what I called my Grail, and for years I called it my Grail. It is only just changed now where I have two Grails. I have this one, and then I have another one that I'll show you in a minute. But this knife is just amazing, a super knife. This is just S30V. It's just a fantastic work knife. It's a fidget tool, and I got into sort of having knives that had fidget facilities with them, and I just, I loved them. I really loved all that because I'd never done it. I've cut myself more on these knives than I ever have with a slip joint. And these are just a selection of my Barlows and a couple of other ones here, but mostly just my Barlow because they're all in one box and I can bring them out just to talk about pocket knives and my love for them. But did I love this knife? Absolutely. Absolutely loved this knife. I thought I was a proper knife collector when I had this. That's how much it meant. I actually thought I was part of the community. I felt more. And that's wrong. The community doesn't expect anything of you. It's the expectations you put in yourself being a YouTuber. And it was all new to me. I'd never done anything like this. I'm technically inept. I was then. I am now. I can do a little bit of basic technology, but that's it. I've no interest in the technology. I love having a chat and I love being able to take it on video. That's all. That's my limit in technology. No interest in it. I don't use it in life in any other thing. So this was just a knife that just blew me away. My latest Grail, and I've got the 2 Grails in Lockett knives, is this. This is my, again, I keep showing it, but I just can't tell everybody. There's no fanciness about this. This is just a knife. It's a 20-odd-year-old pattern that's changed a little bit, but not very much, for 20-odd years. It's just a beautiful, this is a Chris Reeve 31, which is an upgrade from the 21. And it's a fantastic upgrade. I love it. Vastly expensive knife. And I bought this one. This is just, but it's just me. There's nothing fancy about it. It has a lock. It has this opening system. That's the way you open it. There's no, you can do the other thing. You flick it open if you want, but it's not what it's made for. It's not a play knife like I call those other ones. They're play knives. And I've stopped playing so much. Do I still love this knife? And do I take it out and play with it? A lot. More than any of my other knives, I play with this. This is the one that if I want to have a wee fidget, that's the one I'll go to because it meant so much. So does this. This will never go. As that has never gone, this one I know inside myself, unless there's a disaster or something happens, but it will never go. It'll not leave my collection because I just love it that much. But it's funny. There's 2 knives. It's funny. This is pre-planned. This is not so. But I just wanted to show this. I nearly forgot that I was going to show it. Here's a modern slip joint. This is a GEC, a beautiful 89 pattern or 86 pattern. Sorry, beautiful knife, Barlow, which is the things that I collect most of now. And here's it beside the Chris Reeve. They are about the same size, roughly the same size. I bring them up to the same size. The blades are roughly the same. There's a little bit more cutting edge, but not much. There you go. The back, not much difference in the blade stock. This one goes down to a thinner tip than this one does. This one is more of a working tool, so you can do that. This is a hell of a... They're both great slicers. There's not much difference. And what is the difference in use with these? In a daily use, if I take this out of use or this out of use, what is the difference? Here's the truth. Absolutely nothing. And this one cost about 170 or something. And this is in 440C. This is Magna Cut, the latest and greatest sort of steel. What difference is there on my cutting with my use of this on a daily basis? None. None. There's no difference. This will go, the only difference between this and this is this will go dull quicker. But that's all. It'll still go all day. But, it'll last me this. So, I mean, the blade steels, yes, I chase the blade steels. I still do, obviously. I bought this, didn't I? I bought this. So I like the blade steels because it's part of the game, if you like, is having the newest blade steel. And sometimes I just fall into the game. So, I mean, this one was obviously a cheaper knife. There's still about £200 to buy them now. But here is my latest and greatest slip joint. And this is something, again, I thought I would never have. Look at this. This is a Brazilian maker, custom maker, Romano. I'd heard about them. I'd always seen them. It's about the same size as the 940. The blade steel. Very, very similar. This is about £200 now. This is £1,200. Why do I need this? I don't need it, but I wanted to have. I had the chance of getting it, and I just took that chance. It's the one and only knife I'll ever spend in that price bracket. Absolutely, as it stands now, until I win the lottery. But I'm going to have to start doing it soon. But so this is my Grail. It's not a Grail though. funny enough, it doesn't feel like a Grail. It just feels like a really high-end, expensive knife that I can judge everything else on. And by God, it is worth it. It's worth it to me. I love having it in my collection. This was traded for a knife that had been given to the channel. The only way I could have got something like that. But I just wanted it. So I got it. This is still a Grail, and my Chris Reeves a Grail. So then, about 3 years ago now, I suppose it is, I started to get interested in slip joints again. Why? Well, here's why. And it's quite funny. It was the Chinese knives that changed me back to slip joints. They started me off in knife collecting, and then they changed me back to slip joints again. Because all the knives that were coming out now started to become nearly like clones of each other. All the Chinese companies started making knives, and they were making great knives. They're absolutely amazing knives. But they were pricing a lot of the American companies out of the market because they were making better knives for the price. I mean, that goes to say that's what China does. Do you know what I mean? But it was that. And I was trying to keep up with the newest and greatest knife that came out, the best looking knife, a different looking knife. They really just went into it and covered the whole market and swamped it with knives that just became, they all look something the same. To me, that now if you collect them, there's nothing wrong. This is not an insult. It's just, to me, they all became samey. Because once one company made one, another 10 companies made something similar. And I just got tired of chasing that for the channel. So I started into pocket knives. And I was sort of pushed down that road because I couldn't afford to keep buying knives every week. I'm not on that sort of budget. I'm on a pension now. I wasn't then, but I mean, I'm on a pension now, and I can't afford that sort of thing. Thankfully, over the years, I built up a lot of stock from companies giving me knives, and I've had to sell them, trade them, do anything to get better knives that, I now have in my collection. But I only have about 8 good knives in the locking variety. The rest of my knives, which is about we counted at Christmas, it was about 300, just on 300. I've now come down again from that because I sold a lot more of my locking knives and kept just the ones that I really wanted. I still have maybe 20 older type ones that I just keep for nostalgia's sake. But I'm now mostly into this. This is where my love has taken me. Because the locking knives, I loved them, but I wasn't in love with them, if that makes any sense. Sounds like I'm having a marriage breakup. But anyhow, I wasn't in love with them. I loved them as a knife. But when I got into traditionals, and after a year or two, it became so passionate. When I seen something, like here for instance, here's an old knife, an old pocket. It's a Taylor's Eyewitness, an old slim Barlow, the gentleman's sort of Barlow. But this is an old model. Oh, that's a pen blade. And it has oh, come on, Steve. See, looking behind it. There we go. It has that lovely sort of California type clip, but it's a lovely slim blade. Just a gentleman's carry, like it says, for cutting your sandwich if you were out or whatever. There's so many uses for it. And another thing I want to say to people, when I get knives like this, people love to say an older knife, don't do anything to it. When I buy something like this, I'm not buying it with the intention of reselling it. So when I get knives like this that are good, that can be used and carried, I sharpen every one. Because to me, some days I'll have, 2 knives that I carry every day. I'll have my EDC knife now, and then I have another one. And then some days I throw in something like this to my pocket, just to have an old knife. Whereas I'm out somewhere and I'm talking with somebody my age or somebody in that sort of generation who would appreciate something like that, I'll bring it out and show them. Because I end up bringing my conversation around the knives. It's terrible. I must be an awful person to meet when I'm in a cafe and I start talking to you and you're talking about people, you're finding out about them. So these are the sort of knives I love collecting. This sort of knife is a really old knife. It is beautifully, I bought this because of the end caps. How flippin' cute are them tiny little end caps. I just think they're stunning. It's a lovely knife. It's a much older knife. I haven't sharpened this. because I don't use this. If I'm taking it out, I'll take it out and show it, but I don't sharpen it. I wouldn't use this because I don't want to take any more of the blade off that's already gone. And there's nothing bad to the blade. This was in fantastic condition, this wee blade. It had been used, you can see there's bits off it, but I just basic cleanup, and it's in my collection. And I love collecting little knives like this. I have a fair good collection of them. Modern. Just to prove that I do not object to China in any way. They make knives, we buy them, they keep making them, and that's it. That is the law of finance, of business. If somebody makes something good enough, you'll buy it. And this latest one from Rosecraft, which I get for nothing. I have to put that out there because some people are offended if you don't put out that you got it from Rosecraft or you got it from any company. So I get these from Rosecraft. Look at that. Is that not just a beautiful knife? And it's £60. £60 or whatever. Yeah, it is £60 over here. It's just stunning. It is everything a Barlow should look like, behave like. It's in D2 steel, a better steel than most of the original, the old timer Barlows. Fantastic steel. So it's a super knife for 60. Why wouldn't I want to buy things like this? Because if they weren't giving them to me, I would be buying this no matter what. It's just a super. I shouldn't say that, should I? Oh, well, never mind. It's a beautiful knife, and I love them. Exactly the same as I love this Chinese one. It doesn't have as good a blade steel, but it's got the looks, and it's got the fit and finish that completely belies its price, and it's beautiful, and I love having it in my collection. Here's a lovely old Rough Rider here. This is the Daddy Barlow. Look at the size. It's 9 inches. Look at the size of that knife. Beautiful blade. It's attached. I haven't used this. I got this as a gift from Slick Slicers. And this ram's horn bone. So it's bone that's made to look like ram's horn. And can you tell me that there's a much nicer ram's horn blade out there that looks, even a natural one? This one just is the business. I think it's a beautiful, and it has the old horseshoe on the scale, which I like as well. I just didn't like the big R. But this just excites me every bit as much as if it was ram's horn in a more expensive package. But I love it. It's not the knife I use. I don't carry big knives like this about me. One, they're illegal. It's just too unwieldy to carry. For me, that's my opinion. So I then started collecting GEC. You've seen one of the GECs over there. Here's another little GEC. This is, honestly, this tiny little knife is one of the best little workhorses I've got. It is a beauty. This is the number 25. I'm sure it's 25. Yeah, 25 pattern. Beautiful tiny Barlow. It's in snakewood. It's not really come out here. The light I have got is not great for shot, but it's in beautiful snakewood. It's a 3-finger knife. It is just a little workhorse. It's got a thick enough spine, sharp enough. I could actually take this as my only carry and not feel underarmed, if you like. Armed. What a word. Anyway, you know what I mean. This will do anything I need to do. It's a lovely little knife. And for most of us, we don't use little pocket knives for big jobs. I have knives that will cover the big jobs. Why wouldn't I take this if I was going to do a job that I wanted a bigger knife? But, so that, I mean, case. We all give case stick, and I give them stick too. But this it took me years to get this. And I got this proper stag. It was terrible on the back. There was next to no colour in it, no nothing. And I done this myself with a lighter. Literally burnt the back of it with a lighter, and now it is just one of my favourite Barlows. I love it, and it's a case Barlow. The fit and finish, everything about it was fantastic, but they hadn't matched up the stag well, which really lets a knife down when it's not done. Look, it was stag, there was nothing wrong with it, but it just didn't look nice I don't particularly like them when they're different each side. I like them to look somewhat similar. And then I got into collecting the older knives, really into it. This is an old IXL. This is a Wolstenholme. This is just a beautiful, basic Barlow. And this pattern just sung to me as soon as I got it. I'm trying to think of the other ones here that I got in the beginning. Where are they? Yeah, I mean, that's a Barlow. Oh, and there's another Barlow. This is like a gentleman slim Barlow. This is the Arthur Wright Barlow. What else? Oh, here we go. Taylor's Eyewitness Barlow, which is about the same size as the Arthur Wright. But I got into these. These are the modern ones that are still made today. Although this is an old one, they still make this pattern today. And I just absolutely fell in love. Absolutely just. And these were ones I could get in the UK that I knew nothing about before I got into collecting. Otherwise, I would have been buying these for years, especially this one. It's under £40. Super nice. They still make it. You know what I mean? They make this now more expensive, and this one is definitely more expensive. But you're going to find that with any knife, no matter where they're from. And I just love the action on these Barlows, especially this one. Take your finger off, all right. And I just love the history of these companies that are, making knives now. And the thing about history, like Arthur Wright, it's not a real old history. It was started in 1947, just after the war, when people are starting to get back into life again. And, a father and son started the company, and I'm sure they were using old machinery from knife companies that had gone out of business, which there were a lot of then. Now, knife companies wrapped up during the war because we're making things for the war effort. If they weren't making knives, they were making other things with the machinery. And the knife industry was nearly depleted here. But some people took that gamble. Arthur Wright was one of them, and started his company, and he was making old traditional knives from old patterns. And that's why sometimes you'll see the difference between, where we go? Where did I put it? Where's my Arthur Wright? There you go. There's an Arthur Wright. That's the knife they still make to this day. It's beautiful. It's a very small bolster on it. But it's a Barlow. Because if you get one of their other knives, a basic knife, a jackknife, the bolster only comes to about there. Whereas this is down there. It's twice the size of it. So it's very recognisable if you know your knives. But they also now, with the new company, the company it's moved on. I think there's only been 3 different owners as such. The family was in the family, and then a daughter-in-law took it over. But anyhow, then in 1947, it was taken over by one of the latest owners, and then bought by Michael Harrison, who took it over, and he has kept the name, and this is his son. So it's Michael Harrison and Son, but it's still Arthur Wright and Son. They haven't changed the name. They're keeping that name. This is Ashley Harrison, Michael's son, who now makes, customs in his spare time. He's not a full-time customer. He makes the knives in the shop for Arthur Wright, but he does this to improve his skills in his own time. And let me tell you, he has improved immensely from when he started. They weren't bad when he started, but now they're just becoming. This is an amazing Barlow. This is everything you would ever want in a Barlow. It's coming from an older company. All right, they're not 100 years old now, but they're still an old company, and they're still using the same patterns, and they're still using a lot of the same machinery that was used in 1947. It's still there, still being used, still being maintained by Michael. And if you want to hear anything more about that, you can go and watch our podcast. On Thursday night, we had the podcast, and Michael was a guest. What an interesting guest. Please go back and watch it. I encourage everybody to do it, whether you like traditional knives or not. Just hear the interest, or hear how interesting the story of Michael is to get to where he is, to buy in a shop. It was just an amazing podcast. One of my favourite. Him and Shing have been my 2 favourite, and it's funny, knife makers, UK knife makers. But this is just an amazing Barlow by Ashley. 01 tool steel, which is, again, a bit of a grade up from the older type Barlows, which were 420, just whatever, basic steels, SF100 in the UK, C75. But this is 01, and I just think it is absolutely beautiful. This is in Turkish walnut, which is just amazing. I love it. It's my favourite new knife that I've had this year, by far. I just adore this knife. Oh, listen to that. Yes. That's what gets me. That really does just get me. Arthur Wright have the best pull, and honestly, I smile when I close it. One, that I'm grateful my finger's still intact, and two, just the noise of it. It just gives me the fizz. It really, there's no other noise like an Arthur Wright. There just isn't. There isn't in my eyes. There's other ones that are just, nice, but I also like to collect German-made ones. I mean, this one, for example, because Germany was a big part of the knife industry and still is with Boker and the likes of that. And I have this lovely, this is a Russell Barlow, which is an American company, but they were made by, this one was made by Boker. You can see all the influence of Boker knives in this. It's just beautiful from the long pull. What have I got here? I've got a lovely old Boker. This is obviously a made in Germany, but a very old Boker. Now this is a clip, but you can just see that the influences that Russell got them to make. It's just beautiful. They're a very non-flashy, absolutely brilliant handmade knives, and they have a history just like the UK of making fantastic knives, and they're OEMs for other people, much as the Chinese will be to to American designers and whatever. Boker does that. All these knives done it. They do OEMs for other people, including A. Wright and Son, Taylor's Eyewitness. They will make for other people. And like, here's a Shred. Look at that for a Barlow. Look at that. It's white Delrin. It's got this beautiful owl. This is a Scrimshaw series made by Shred in the US. Look at that bolster. There you go. Shred Scrimshaw made in the USA. Oh, you can see that there. I'm sure you can. Yeah, made in the USA. But look at that embossed bolster. Isn't that just beautiful? Please do more of that, companies, if you get the chance. And then that Scrimshaw on it, that owl is just beautiful. And there's a cartouche there, which I keep saying I'm going to get my PPP put in it, but I haven't yet. Beautiful two-bladed Barlow. And again, I say the Barlows are the ones that got me. But then you can get modern ones now that are made to look much older. This is Joseph Rogers. Not a great strong pull. A lot of the other companies, Taylor's Eyewitness has got a nice pull. I quite like it, and they can get a firm pull. But a lot of the other Rogers and Wolstenholme, they don't make as strong a pull. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. The thing I like a lot about the British knives is they have this ricasso that's turned out, so you get a bit of extra room and you get that safety. So if it's a little bit loose, it's still never going to close on you unless you handle it wrongly and hold it away down here. But holding it up there, you're completely safe. It'll never close on you. I very rarely cut myself with a slip joint. I just don't, because I know when I'm handling it, I have to treat it like it is a knife. It will cut. Whereas a locker knife, you get a bit careless a lot of the time. But there's still a nice wee snap on that. And that's made today in their factory now. Here's another one. This is another beauty now that I just got recently. This was to celebrate the 400-year, if I can show you that, the 400-year anniversary of the Cutlers Association of Sheffield. And it's been running consecutively every year since 1884. Isn't it? 1824 to 2024, sorry. 400. Now, there's not many of these being made, and I am just blessed that I have this beautiful wood, dyed wood. It is stunning. Beautiful little knife, made by the Eddington Group in here in the UK. They make Joseph Rogers, IXL, Wolstenholme. They make a few of the older makes. They took them over and they make them in a similar old factory with old tools. I just adore this, as a modern knife. What else? Here, GECs I got into, I showed you that. This is the number 15 pattern, the TC Barlow, the one that everybody wants. And they want it for a reason, because it's an absolutely stunning knife. I love this one. Just got this one this year. I've had many of them and traded them for others, but this one's in my cart. This is just the perfect little work knife to take. And you can see GEC still keep that traditional ricasso, so it'll sit there and it might poke you a wee bit, but it'll not cut you. as long as you're holding it correctly. And I naturally go to that position whenever I'm carrying a knife. It's not something I even have to think about. So I've sort of run through a lot of them. Here's, again, this is another beautiful American one. It's very hard over here for us to get the older American patterns because the collectors don't want to let them go and send them over to the UK. But that's all right. I mean, we've got our own, but this is one of my favorite. This is Cripple Creek. There you go. Cripple Creek. What does that say? Master cutlery. And is that not masterful? That bone, it's saw cut. It is beautiful, the depth of colour in this. And this is an older knife. You know, not ancient, just an older knife. Beautiful walk and talk in this. Blade centering, beautiful. I mean, I bought these and they were near new old stock. Just beautiful. I absolutely adore them. So I think that's it. I think I've gone around most of everything. But if that doesn't tell you, this is, and I know this is just Barlow's. I have lots of slip joints. Most of my collection is slip joints now, you know, at least 200 plus of slip joints. And do I want to get it much bigger? Probably not. I'd rather just pick and choose the knives that I want and lose a couple of the lesser ones that I want the least and just keep building on that collection till it gets to a lot of older knives. Very much into my Arthur Wright, so I mean I keep them up on my Ashleys. I'll keep buying them because they're what I want. They're my Benchmade 940 of today. They're my Chris Reeve to, you know, slip joints. It's, you know, these are knives that I want to have about me for the rest of the time. And I'll put that other beautiful big Barlow in there. That's my love story. If I hope you can maybe feel some of my love for knives and the collecting that I do now. It's not just a hobby anymore. It definitely isn't just a hobby. It is, I'm having an affair with these bloody knives. Thankfully, I'm too old to have an affair with anybody else, but that's what it is. It's an affair with these knives. And I still love these knives, don't I? I mean, I've got about 8 of them, and that's all I need. I don't need any more of them because I don't do that much hard work that I need these knives. But I still need them because it's part of my journey. Chinese knives? Of course I'm going to buy them if they make a good knife. But these Chinese knives led me into that whole collection of hundreds of knives, and I mean hundreds of knives in the locking. And now I've just picked the ones that I really like, and I keep them. And that's the story of my locking knives to my now complete and utter passion is the pocket knives. The little traditional pocket knives that can do every bit as much work as them lockers. They can do I can find a knife that will do every bit as work. I mean, this isn't CPM 154. This is going to do anything that Chris Reeve's going to do. Anything. The only thing is it doesn't lock. And that's where I am now. If it doesn't lock and it's a good knife, this is beautiful. Beautiful knife. Will I use it? Absolutely not. I tried to and I couldn't. It's too dear. I tried to and I couldn't. That's just my keeper. That's my show-off knife. But I couldn't use it. I really did try. The two boys that I do the podcast with just laughed at me. I tried to carry it. It's the only knife that I will not carry and use. So there you go. Paddy's away for a cup of tea. I'm sorry if I went on a bit long. What did it go on? Oh, it's only 38 minutes. For goodness sake, it's a shorty. Thank you so much for listening. I hope that's helped you. Don't worry. If you can't afford to go into the higher end knives, don't worry about it. Because these knives are, some of them you can buy now. And you can just over the years increase till you get to the standard that you want. And whatever standard you're at, there is such a variety of knives that you can get them. And just enjoy your hobby as much as I have. Honestly, I just love this hobby. I don't love some of the fighting that goes on. I don't love some of the slander that goes on. But hey, it's a hobby and it involves human beings. But as far as I'm concerned, I found a good group of lads that I like being with and I like chatting with and I like taking the mickey out of. And the hobby has given me all that. thank you so much to the hobby and to all those that have helped me along the way get this collection of knives that I've got. I'm blessed. Take care. Bye bye.